About a month late. It's a follow-up to AMD's Q1 earnings. I have over 30% of my net worth in AMD, and as a retail investor, I had some questions for the AMD team, and first and most importantly, I also want to congratulate the AMD team on a great first quarter. I think the quarter was a lot better than people expected, and the general sentiment around AMD still isn't that great, except for a very small amount of retail investors and some institutional investors that are buying up the stock. I think we're about 70% bought up by institutions at this point. So I wanted to congratulate the AMD team and Lisa Su for doing a great job. It doesn't go unnoticed how fast the team is iterating and also changing the culture around software. This is especially noticed with Anush on X. So I think that's just really cool to see. And if you're not on Twitter, I don't think anyone sees that. So anyways, awesome stuff. Can't wait for the rest of the year and in the coming years. Here are some of my questions. My purpose with this was just to do it for fun, but also some of the questions that the Wall Street analysts ask on these calls are kind of infuriating. I don't work for the company, and I do this for fun, and I don't really care. So I'm going to ask some questions I think are better. And so I wanted to start with one, what are AMD's plans for humanoid robots? What products is AMD developing to service this $50 trillion plus market, which I think that was kind of an estimate by Morgan Stanley a few weeks back. Jensen may have mentioned that as well. And then, will current offerings suffice for robots, or will newer and different GPUs and FPGAs be needed? I'm really curious to what your customers are saying about this market, your products in relation to the robots they're building. Tesla, Figure, these startups. I'm really curious what your plans are there. Same question for drones. I'd be really interested to know if your products can kind of be adapted for drone manufacturers like Anduril and obviously others. I know that's the thesis around FPGAs and your chiplet platforms, is they're customizable. So I'm curious if that applies here with drones as well as humanoid robots. Third question, do you think there is more of an opportunity to reinvest in the business? I'm all about stock buybacks, but could some of the cash be reinvested in additional software development and R&D for current or future projects? Again, I think the stock buybacks are great. That shows me how much conviction you guys have in the company, and that you could potentially believe the stock is cheap, and so you're buying it. And so that's great for investors, but also could some of that cash go towards improving products? Just figured I'd throw that out there. Fourth question, will MI350 and MI400 performance be on par with Grace Blackwell 200 and NVIDIA's next-gen GPUs or better? What type of performance are you guys seeing internally for your new products? Would love to see more on that. I know you guys have an upcoming event, so maybe that's something that could be addressed, and I'm sure it will be. Fifth question, is it possible to speed up GPU development and production even more without loss of quality? This question was answered today when you guys acquired Enosemi. I believe that's how you pronounce it. So that was really cool to see. I was reading all about that company during my lunch break today at work, and it sounds like you guys are already working on that, which is pretty cool. Sixth question, can you address NVIDIA's move to NVLink Fusion? I believe this is, my take is this is in response to AMD's move to open source ROCm and the chiplet platforms. And part of the AMD thesis is the customizability of the chiplet platform, where you can combine GPUs and CPUs. So just kind of curious what the team's thoughts are there. And then, how will AMD continue to open up your platforms to compete with NVIDIA. To me, the only logical move, if the chiplets don't already work with other semi-platforms, is to double or triple down on open source to ensure AMD platforms work with every semi-platform. 8th question, how will AMD continue to recruit and hire the best talent? Ultimately, culture and talent will drive the results you guys are looking for. And then number 9, will you consider taking questions from retail investors on future earnings calls? I think I said this earlier, but some of the questions asked by mainstream analysts are really disappointing, and they don't even talk to you guys about like the business. They're just like, well, this cash flow here, you think this number here, like, what do you think? And I think it would change things up if there's just a huge AMD community that would probably ask better questions. So anyways, that's what I have. Great job to the AMD team. Looking forward to Q2 earnings and obviously beyond. So thanks. Bye.